Hello and welcome to the Deep Down Beer podcast. My name's Sean and joining me as always is the one and only Dante Boff. Mr. Boff, my man, how are we?
Sean, I'm full, I'm content, I'm satisfied, thanks to the beautiful pizza that you just made. Prior to me coming here, I rocked up and there was a pizza sitting on the fucking stovetop. Like a pie in an open windowsill with the smell wafting out the window. It was beckoning to me.
Well, it's funny you say pie because there was the recipe by JK and Kenji Lopez Alt. And you know how Americans, when they make a deep dish pizza, they call it a pie?
Yeah.
In his whole article / recipe, because he writes these really cool things where he somehow blends in the method and the ingredients. It's horrible to like try and find the section, but he writes really well.
Sounds really annoying.
Yeah. But yeah, he refers to it as a pie the whole time. Like, it's literally called a cast iron pizza, and he refers to it as a pot pie or a pie.
There's a really great bar in Brunswick called Small Time. Shout out to Small Time. They're amazing. And
sponsor us.
Small Time is just off Sydney Road on Albert Street. But their whole thing is that they do like these massive, gigantic, like, seriously, like, probably like 16-inch pizzas, like so big that you can't get the box. If you've got a takeaway pizza, you can't get the box in the backseat of your car. It has to go in the boot. And so you can get like one slice of pizza for like $6, or like it's like $45 for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're New York style pizzas, and they call them pie.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one slice of pie, and theirs isn't even a pie. Theirs is literally just like a flat pizza. It's obviously just a pizza and they call it a pie.
It's so weird. It's so weird. But
so,
like,
you say this guy calls it a pot pie.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Fuck off. My ancestors didn't slave away over the wood fire oven to have some bloke come in here and start calling it a pot pie.
This bit has been done in the past and will be done again in the future. But yeah, good point. Anyway, so you had the pizza, you enjoyed it, I enjoyed it, but this was probably the worst one I've ever made because too much base. Like I actually didn't measure. I just eyeballed it, and in lockdown, I did one of these every week. It was beautiful, and I'd chuck on mozzarella, and then I'd sprinkle over some parmesan as well. So I would have this like crispy parmesan casing, keeping that mozzarella nice and moist underneath. Incredible.
If there's one thing I love, it's a moist mozzarella.
Can you believe I put on weight over lockdown? So yeah, it's been a while. I fell off a little bit, and this one just wasn't. You know, it was too doughy. And then, as you know, Dante, when I took it out of the oven, there was like about a centimeter of uncooked dough, which was just horrible. So we had to chuck her back in.
Yeah, but no harm, no foul.
No harm, no foul. Fine. But the worst part was I had these nice bubbles forming, which I usually do, and then the bubbles like come up, and then you just get the very thin crust, you know, the very thin bubble that's just like hardened into crust. Yeah. Had one of them working. It was going great. I pour on some of Amundo's Nonni's Passata. Shout out to Amundo. There's actually about 36 of them there.
There's a couple of boxes.
So I pour that on. I'm rubbing it around with the back of the spoon because I'm a professional. Yeah. Pop the big fucking hole I've been working up in the middle, right? And then all of the passata just funnels into it, and I'm like, this is fucked. So then I have to chuck on more to account for the fact that it's all sitting down there. And then like when I cook it, it all just like slowly drains out. So it's a very low moisture pizza because instead of having this thick red sauce on top, it's all essentially gone down the plug in the middle. And Dante, I apologise to you for that.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I'll
do a better one next time.
Okay, well, I'll hold you to that. But seriously, you knocked it out of the park for me. What a wonderful thing to walk into.
And what a wonderful way to start the pod. Because if we had recorded before I ate, I would be shitty. You were
beside yourself. Like you couldn't even contain yourself.
Yeah.
This pod intro is very much like circa early 2020 when every like pod intro was like food related. It was like what is going. You'd say, "Hey, how's
French
it going?"
onion soup,
and I would say, "Yeah, great. Just ate this," and we'd have like a food chat. So it's kind of like. This is almost like metatextual inside our own podcast.
Yeah. And also like 4 o'clock textual for Sean because 4 o'clock is like early dinner. It's like the entree.
The entree. What's for main dinner later?
I've got some smoked salmon, which I might just chuck over a salad. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I'm out of pickled onions, and it sort of really brings down the salad when you're out of a pickle element. So
head down to the shops.
I've fucking been to the shops once. I get all heebie-jeebie when I have to go to the shops twice because I'm like, yeah, look, it's me. I didn't write a fucking list. What are you going to do? Make fun of me?
Probably. They probably are.
Yeah, so there you go. Can't do that. That's completely off the cards. But speaking of completely off the cards, that is the number 1 seed for the Golden State Warriors, who have been in quite a slump recently. And we should say on this podcast, Dante, congratulations. I'll slap a duke right here. Congratulations for clinching the playoffs. The first team in... Is this your second year in a row that you've been the first to...
And I just want to say thank you for the well wishes. I have worked hard to achieve this. So it's nice to see all of my work paying off.
So instead of, what was the analogy? Something pizza, Golden State's not going to be the number 1 seed. That's right. And we're actually the number 3 seed at the moment because Memphis has overtaken us after, the Santa Cruz Warriors lost to the Denver Nuggets a couple of days ago. What's wrong with the Golden State Warriors? Where do you want to start with this, Dante?
Well, I just want to start on like a bit of an ominous note in that what you've been saying for the past month as we kind of round the corner into view of the playoffs is that the one thing that you don't want to happen in the first round is that you end up playing the Denver Nuggets. And were the season to end today, you definitely would play the Denver Nuggets.
And it's looking like we're going to do that.
And we kind of talked about it last week, but the West is much more stratified at each seed than the East is. And so it's unlikely that you'll catch the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies look most likely to kind of lock up that 2 seed.
And they're healthy.
Yeah, and they're healthy. Now, then you're 2.5 games ahead of the Jazz, so it's probably a fight for the 3 and the 4 seed between you two. And then the Mavs and the Nuggets will duke it out for 5 and 6. But that's kind of pretty much set, because there's a bit of a drop after that. So the 6 teams, there's not going to be that much movement within those seeds, whereas the East, it's completely different because everyone's fucking tied or half a game behind each other or whatever.
Yeah.
So you could end up playing Jokic. Playing Jokic in the first round, which is not good. But in terms of what's wrong with the Warriors, you have to start with Draymond. Because Dray's been out for 31 games with a back injury. In that time, the Warriors are 15-16, which is not good. Not good at all. On the season, I think a testament to how good the Warriors are playing earlier in the season and to how important Draymond is. On the season, the Warriors are number 3 in net rating, according to Cleaning the Glass. But they're number 10 when you just look at it from the start of the year, from when Draymond has essentially been out. And more importantly, their defense was just number 1 in the league by a considerable margin for the entirety of 2021, is now 10th. Which is quite a fall.
30 games without the Defensive Player of the Year. And I will say that if Draymond does play the rest of the season, he's supposed to come back on the 14th of March. If he does play the rest of the year, he'll have about 42 games under his belt. I think he deserves Defensive Player of the Year. It'll be between him and Giannis, but I think
and Gobert.
And Gobert, but I think there is quite a lot of voter fatigue.
Definitely.
Just ask friend of the pod, Lucas. He's had voter fatigue since his first one.
He's just had fatigue in general.
Sorry, I butted in. You were going through their numbers. Keep going.
Well, the other side of the coin is on offense, where since the start of the year, they're 19th. Which is a pretty big indictment of Steph Curry's ability at age 32, 33 to carry a team on his own. And an indication that a lot of what made him so elite to start the season was that ability to kind of not have to play traditional point guard. Like there's a lot of the play going through Draymond, so Steph doesn't have to do the heavy lifting. Obviously he still does. He brings the ball up just as much as Draymond, but he's unleashed so much more as an off-ball creator, an off-ball scorer, and with Dray out and kind of no ready-made replacement, obviously he's one of the most unique players in NBA history, so it's not exactly likely that you're going to have someone on the roster who can just step in and do what he does. But there's been no replacement for him on offense or on defense. He really did seem like the linchpin that was holding it all together. Yeah, 15 and 16 is bad.
15-16 is bad. That's like Minnesota Timberwolves level of stuff.
Well, Minnesota Timberwolves just quietly 8 games above 500.
Wow.
When did that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, and I kind of feel bad for Timberwolves just as a side note, because if they lose in the play-in, like if you just get unlucky and have to play the Lakers or something, and then they just play bad in their second game,
LeBron just drops 56 on you.
Poor bastards. Like, they're doing it. Like, they're 8 games above 500, and if they don't make the playoffs, that'll be pretty upsetting. Anyway, the Warriors, it is worrying, and while in the past few years that they have been title contenders, barring the past 2, it's always been like you get these teams that are super hot heading into the playoffs and super cold heading into the playoffs, and you can tell like who's actually going to play well as soon as they get there. And the Warriors have never been like streaking into the playoff, apart from 14-15, but they've never just been red hot and you're like, wow, I feel great. But they've never been cold, and you're never like, ooh, what are you worried? Like, should we be worried here?
What about the year when they won an NBA record 73 games? Were they not red hot going into the playoffs?
Yeah,
then?
but you know, that's
literally the best regular season of all time doesn't qualify as red hot.
Yeah, I mean they were red hot for the whole entire year. Arguably too red hot, because then they got burnt out, and that's how they lost, not because of any other factor. This is the first time since I've been a Warriors fan where I'm worried about their form heading in. Because like it is really concerning, and it is Draymond's fault, as in the fact that Draymond isn't there, but the fact that nothing else is working doesn't help. The fact that Klay Thompson has only played 7 seconds with Draymond, like I sometimes think like, I don't know about mid-season trades turning out to win a title, right? And I was disproven when Marc Gasol came into Toronto in 2019, and they obviously gelled with that team. They went on to win the title. But like Klay Thompson was like a mid-season addition, and if he obviously knows how to play with Draymond, but if he's going to come in after not playing with him for 2 years plus 3 months, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's quickly remember how to play basketball today. It's a bit better than a mid-season trade, but like that's just another variable and another factor heading in here, where it's like we haven't had Draymond, we've been bad without him, we know how important he is. And he had a back injury, like, which is one of the worst injuries you can get, because who knows what's happening. Like, Brook Lopez was supposed to be back by now, and he's simply not there. But then Michael Porter Jr. had surgery 3 months ago, and he's supposed to be there in like a couple of days. It's all over the shop. So if Draymond is at full strength, I feel so much better. But it's such a worrying time to be a Warriors fan right now, because this really is it. This is the time for us to win our last title before everything sort of fades into the the history books, right? And this is the last chance where everyone's going to be young enough to still play, and it's concerning. And to touch on your Steph Curry point, he's actually putting up very similar numbers to his first MVP year. And if you remember back in 14-15, it was very much the ascendance of Steph Curry, and Draymond was ascending on defense and didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. I think that went to Kawhi. But Draymond was doing that thing on defense, but on offense, he was literally a split-up shooter and just getting like a couple of offensive rebounds a game, and just he was like, okay, this dude's not very good, let's just not worry about him. And then eventually...
But he did have that 1 year, maybe it was 14-15, maybe it was 15-16, but where he wasn't fully unleashed as the player that he is now. Like where he actually was an offensive contributor scoring-wise. Yeah. Like he averaged like 14 points, and he shot like 37% from 3.
But I think that was in year...
That was 15-16, so the year after. Yeah. So he shot almost 50% from the field, which is a career high by about 5 percentage points. And he shot almost 30% from the field, almost 40% from the field, which is a career high by about 8 percentage points. Yeah. And he averaged more than 2.5 points over his previous career average, which was 14. Yeah,
and that was the first year where Steve Kerr was like, okay, give this guy the ball.
He pretty monster season, looking 14, 7.5 assists and 9.5 boards with like Defensive Player of the Year.
Is that the only year he shot? What's his best 3-point shooting?
His best is that year, 38, 39.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, how fuck's that?
That's insane. Also 3 combined steals and blocks. It's not a bad, a bad year.
And he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, but you can't really be mad though, because he lost it. He lost it to like the best defensive player of the last 10 years, probably. Like when it really matters.
Draymond's the best defensive player of the past 10 years.
You think that Draymond is a better defensive player when it really matters than Kawhi?
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's agree, disagree. But Steph Curry's putting up similar numbers, and everyone's looking at him as having a slump, and he's shooting a career worst in 3-point percentage, which is still greater than the rest of the league.
I think it's the first time he's ever shot below 40 from 3. Insane stat.
But he's putting up harder shots. He's shouldering much more of a load. His assists have gone up because he's got to do more with the ball. What have you got in front of you?
It is the only year apart from the one where he played 5 games that he shot. That he shot below 40, but yeah, everything that you're saying is correct.
So it was Samus Vandiari on Twitter, and I can't find it because I didn't save it because I'm a big stinky poo poo. But he put his 2014-15 numbers right next to his numbers without Draymond this year, and they are all identical. Like true shooting, assists, points, everything's exactly the same. But that was a different league, because what the Golden State Warriors were doing then isn't what they ended up doing to become the greatest team of all time. What they were doing then was just better than everyone in 14-15. Now everyone's faster, everyone shoots more, everything's grown exponentially.
His performance this year is much more comparable to the rest of the pack than what it was in 20. The numbers are the same, but 7 years ago his performance was just revolutionary. No one had ever seen anything like it. And this year it's like he's not elevating the team in the way that even he did last year, because last year his numbers were insane, but in terms of impact that he was actually having, he was like dragging them along basically. And this year the stage has been set, and I don't think that it's unfair to say that he hasn't risen to the task, because he's had this stretch without Draymond, which obviously has made it difficult. But even like end of December, start of January, like he was struggling. He kind of removed himself from the MVP race after a very hot opening 2 months, and that was before everything kind of got really, really difficult. So it hasn't been a typical Steph Curry season, no matter what the numbers are going to say, no matter what the counting stats will say anyway.
But he won All-Star MVP, doesn't that mean he's hot?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy that he did hit 16 threes, but then you watch the highlights and it's like, okay, I get it how he hit 16 threes.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's something to worry about. But if Steph Curry isn't the Steph Curry of old, which it's safe to say he isn't the MVP level of Steph Curry.
He's 4 days away from turning 34. He's Basketball Reference page.
He's shot
34. Steph Curry is 34.
Yeah.
Wow, this is how I felt about Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo for like the last 7 years. Like, holy shit, these guys are actually going to be gone soon. Enjoy him whilst you got him.
I am. I'm trying. And those shots are going to get easier when Draymond comes back. But I'm super concerned that so much is resting on Draymond to fix both ends of the basketball court. And like he will come back. Is he going to be at full strength? If not, we won't win a title. And if he is at full strength, not only does he have to get this defense back in order, but he also just has to help his two shooters in Steph and Klay, because Klay's been doing so much more with the ball than he has. Did you read the article on The Ringer by, I think it was Dan Devine, looking at Klay Thompson, like how much he's dribbling, how much he's passing, how much he's had to do with the ball in his hand, like seconds per dribble or something like that. Well, obviously that wouldn't be very high, but seconds, once he gets the catch. He's doing more than he has in any other season of his whole entire career. And it's like, you could look at it and say, oh, he's practiced it and he's 2 years off, but it's like he's coming to a team without its primary ball handler.
Yeah, you don't need or want him to do that.
Exactly right.
Exactly right. Naturalized version. Do you want to talk about Klay a little bit?
Well, something that Marco said on the pod last week, the JVG NBA tribute shows, he goes, like, we haven't seen that Klay game. Like, every year it's always like, oh, look, Klay hit, 60 points and he touched the ball for 5 seconds, some shit like that. There's always a game like that, which is unfair to think of because, yes, he's doing things that break record books. You can't expect him to do that.
60 points in 29 minutes. It's just absurd.
And I think he dribbled it 11 times.
Yeah.
But he's had a few 30-point games, and you get the stats which I've missed seeing, where it's like Steph and Klay combined for 72, Splash Brothers ease to victory and like rest in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It's just I'm extremely patient with Klay, and I've said this on this podcast before he comes back. It's like, let's just wait and see. Don't expect anything. He's going to have months to ramp up. He's got another month to ramp up. He looks good. He is forcing a lot. which is a little bit yucky, and I wonder whether that's making up for missed time in terms of
Do
shots.
you think, though, that he'll be able to force less in a healthier ecosystem?
A healthier ecosystem, as in Draymond's healthy ecosystem?
Yeah, as in
100%.
Draymond's there, the ball's in his hand. He doesn't have to, like dribble into mid-range pull-ups.
Yeah.
He's getting to the rim off of like straight line drives and cuts rather than breaking someone down one-on-one and forcing out something yucky.
Look, this is the wrong way to go about it, but I'm already going to write the article for the Deep 2 on Klay's last month of the season and how amazingly hot he was, because everything's going to open up, everything's going to be so much easier. And one thing without playing Draymond, and when I went on the Download NBA podcast to speak to friends of the pod across the continents, we were talking about the Warriors, and this was, I think it was just before Klay returned. So Draymond was still playing basketball games then. And I was saying that, we talked about strength in numbers and how the Warriors have all this depth, which we all came to the conclusion that it wasn't actually functional depth, because Belly's great, but Belly's not going to play a fucking second in the playoffs, right? But it was so cool because as soon as Draymond sits, you've got Otto Porter Jr. who comes off the bench, and while he's only going to do it 10% of the time that Draymond does it, he's got the ball, he can shoot from three, and if he just operates the dribble handoff, he's not going to throw some amazing bounce pass to a cutting Gary Payton. But I actually said Otto Porter Jr. can be a baby Draymond when Draymond's not out there, so Steve Kerr can still run that beautiful game system. Since Draymond's been down, Steve Kerr goes, okay, we'll give it to Otto Porter Jr. and we'll do exactly that. But it turns out, playing against starters, playing with all the pressure in the world, and playing against teams that are ready for it when it's Otto Porter Jr., not Draymond, he's actually still Otto Porter Jr., right? He's still a baby Draymond, and it doesn't work as well. So then as soon as the offense isn't clicking like Steve Kerr wants it to, then he goes, well, we're not getting the offensive boost from OPJ, and he's nowhere near Draymond on defense. So then how about we sub him out and put in Gary Payton for defense? As soon as Gary Payton's out there, yes, I think he's the best guard defender in the whole entire league, but he's not the best guard shooter in the whole entire league. So that cramps up everything. And another reason why you've got Steph and Klay shooting so bad is that they've only ever played with one guy on the court who can't shoot. Whether that be, Kevon Looney, he's going to get the Keith Bogans and start each half, and he's actually closing games now. But Draymond Green's been that non-shooter, and they've been able to run around. Whoever's setting a screen for them, they can run off it, and then you've got two shooters that are wide open, right? Adding another dude, so you'll have your center and Loon, you can have a non-shooting big, and then you've got Gary Payton just scrunching things up. It's getting a lot harder. The shots are getting harder to hit, and I'll say it again, Draymond has to fix a lot of things just by existing, and but we know that he did that.
Yeah, the first 3 months of the season, we know that he was doing that. That was his role, and everything was flourishing. He was playing at a defensive player of the year level. We had the best D, you had a top 10 offense. Things were looking good, and if he comes back full strength, there's no reason to say that won't happen again, because even when he was, when the Warriors were at their best this season, Klay obviously wasn't playing. So if you hope that you get a healthy Klay, a healthy Dray, then they could be potentially even better. But it's just okay, you're putting a lot of faith in a 30-plus big man with a back injury and a dude who hasn't played for 2.5 years.
And whose fucking legs halfway at the door with media commitments.
Yeah, well, it could be one of the early retirements. All right, before we move on, I just want to chat through this idea that the bottoming out 2 seasons ago, picking Wiseman and then using the pick that they got from the D'Lo trade to take Kuminga and then drafting Moody last year, you've got an influx of young talent that the idea is either going to be flipped for someone bigger and better, a fourth star, or these are going to be the people that can kind of bridge the gap between the current and the next, but also be able to contribute right away. And you've essentially got nothing from all of those guys. Wiseman, you've got nothing.
I think that's wrong.
Wiseman, you've got nothing from. Kuminga looks really good. And when Kuminga plays for the G League Warriors in the NBA, he pops off for 25 and 8. He does look really good. Moody spent most of the season in the G League. And
when he's in the G League, he pops off 25 and 8.
Yeah, but in the G League, regardless. But I don't think Kuminga and Moody are the sort of presence that's needed for a team that's going through these Larry patches with veterans out. They need veterans who can come in and play 30 minutes a game and just be good and do exactly what you need. You need solid starter level players, and instead they've got their assets tied up in like young players who are not ready to be what they need to be just yet. So there's almost like it's almost like in bridging the gap between two eras, you have hamstrung yourself relative to where you need to be, because instead of playing like you're basically, instead of playing like say like an Andre Iguodala from like 3 years ago type, just like a very good role playing starter who can step in, but bench player who can step in when needed. Because you've got these young guys, your veterans are now one-way players. It's a Belly, it's a Gary Payton Jr., it's a Otto Porter. Guys that have proven are not able to hold up when they need to be pressed into larger roles. And the rookies can't be pressed into larger roles either. Wiseman, because he's not actually fucking available, and Kuminga and Moody because they're not ready. I know Kuminga looks good, but I think you would agree that he's still a limited player in terms of his skill set.
Yeah, I mean. So one thing you did say there that I forgot to mention, we're also missing Andre Iguodala, which is a big part of what we do. So like I give Wiseman a pass because he tore his meniscus, right? And it's like, yeah, he looked really bad last year, and you just hope that he gets better. But it's hard to say, hey, like this dude's giving you nothing because he's injured.
No, but I'm saying in terms of
you want to flip him.
Well, in terms of looking at 2 years ago, you had the number 2 pick, and now you have one of two things. You want to give him a pass because he's injured. Okay, he's injured, he's not giving you anything. And if you don't want to give him a pass because he's injured, he's been shit. He's not proven himself to be a rotation level player on a contending team. As a rookie anyway. Obviously, he played like 10 games in college. He was really raw. It was always going to take time. But the fact of the matter is that he was really bad as a rookie. He probably wouldn't have had a big role. There was conversations, pre-season, before it all started, like, what's going to happen with Wiseman? Like, they're not going to give him minutes. He's going to have to earn it. And it was like, well, he obviously wasn't going to...
We're supposed to come back before Christmas as well. So, like, it's like, I'll have this discussion with you when he's back. Like, it is a bit hard. Like, you have to admit that it's hard to say anything at the moment because, like, his trade value has gone down, but it's kind of stagnated because of the injury.
I'm not talking about this from an assets perspective. I'm just talking about this from what they're getting on the court.
Well, let's move on to Kuminga, because I think Kuminga, like, he's in a really hard job right now because he's fucking 19 years old and he's the backup center for a dude who will be playing a forward position at his best, right? And he has played really well. Like, I think he will be playing in the playoffs. And he's going to make mistakes in the playoffs, like he's making mistakes in the regular season. But Kuminga is looking so much better than I thought he was going to look. Like, he's shooting better in the NBA than he was in his season with the G League Ignite. Like, remember when everyone's like, oh, hang on, he shot kind of bad, and Jalen Green shot really well. Well, that's kind of flipped around in the NBA in, like, completely different roles. But I'm really liking Jonathan Kuminga, and I think he is actually contributing to the team right now. He's contributing in a small way because he's a rookie and he's 19 years old. Moses Moody was supposed to be more NBA ready.
I said after his first game, I was like, this dude is going to be really good.
You're like grown man. But he just got a lot of DNP CDs. And he's a guy who's been pinched by Klay Thompson coming back. But
he played well the other day.
Yeah, because Klay Thompson wasn't there. He hit like fucking 4 threes in the first quarter. Ended with 30 points. It's who are they going to trade for?
I'm not taking like an assets approach. I'm simply saying, like, at a time like this, what a team needs is like veteran guys who can just like come in and like do a job. Guys who can play 15 minutes a night, and when you need them to, they can just step into the lineup and, like, play as a starter for 8 games.
Yeah,
guys who know the system, guys who know how to do it. Wiseman, I'm not saying that, like, not criticizing him because he's not available. I'm simply saying from that spot they have got nothing.
Yeah.
Kuminga has been really good and he's thrived in like larger roles, but I would say the way that he's thrived in larger roles is being like a featured player in a way that he's just not going to be ever really on this team. And Moody you haven't got much from. So, like, it's this idea that, like, straddling the past and the future sounds amazing, and you get all of these young players alongside all your Hall of Famers, but in looking backwards and looking forwards, you're kind of sacrificing the present almost, because maybe in year 2 or year 3 all these guys are really excellent and they can be the exact kind of player that I'm talking about. They know the system, they know their roles, they can step in, but for now they're not necessarily giving the team that. And by the time they are ready to properly do that, you know, Steph might be 35, 36.
But then it might be Kuminga's team.
Well, that's the hope. You hope that it's the Kawhi Leonard kind of takeover. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is it's the idea of replicating what the Spurs did with Kawhi. But maybe that's not replicable. Maybe rather than being a blueprint, that's literally just lightning in a bottle.
I think, I agree. But if you can do it, you definitely give it a go. And how many teams out there are going to be in a position to try and do that? Like, this is such a unique spot. And if there was a deal out there where someone was available who would seriously help this Warriors team, like if you could trade for Paul George, like we were talking about that when they crumbled in the playoffs. But if there was a trade like that, I think it would be done. So it's a combination of, if you can try and do those 2 windows, try and do it. And also, is there an offer out there that's worth doing? Because there really hasn't been that offer. So you can just play the party line and say 2 windows. It's going to be Kuminga's team 5 years from now. And these guys are going to be under team control for 9 years, right? Like that window's huge. Yeah. Like Steph Curry's not going to be being paid 50 years.
That's kind of what I'm talking about, though, is that this idea of looking forward with these guys under team control for 9 years. Amazing. That sounds great for the 2025 Warriors. But the 2022 Warriors might be suffering as a result of these guys being rookies and being second-year players.
Draymond's back, man. Like, literally, this team, in the first month of the season, you would have said that they're title contenders.
Yeah, but you know who wasn't playing in the first month of the season?
Moses Moody.
Kuminga, Moody, and Wiseman. I mean, obviously, Wiseman is kind of like an asterisk in this whole discussion, but the rookies weren't playing.
Yeah.
When the ecosystem was thriving and the Warriors looked like the best team in the league, because, you know, maybe this is hard to remember, but my Phoenix Suns haven't been the best team in the league, you know, from the very start to now. The Warriors look better than the Suns. Up until really we played back-to-back. We played back-to-back and split 1-1. And after that, the Suns kind of took off and the Warriors kind of like, you know, leveled a little bit.
You and I went camping and we came back different men.
Yeah, didn't we just?
You and I went camping, came back and swapped seats on the boat. I agree, but it's... Like, so 3 things. In the moment...
3 things?
In the moment, I can't tell you anything. We will be able to judge this 5 years from now. But this exact situation, like, do you want them to trade for, like a role player?
Well, it's kind of like a null hypothesis, what you said before, to say... Well, they've made the picks, or they could have traded them for Paul George. Like, you could have done something different. There's actually a million other things that you could have done. You could have traded them for... Trade pick number 7 for, like, another young player on, like, a decent contract. Bring someone, you know, like, hypothetically, bring someone in from Memphis. Like, and then, trade pick 14 for Kyle Anderson. And then it turns out that Kyle Anderson is, like, the perfect guy to play 30 minutes a game for 10 straight games when Draymond goes out. You know, that's just a hypothetical. So it's a null hypothesis to say that it was either or when there's myriad things they could have done. But my whole point isn't to be critical of the team. It's just to say that in trying to do this, like thread the needle, we're going to be the Spurs that maybe we'll see in 10 years' time, and maybe they win the 24, 25, 26 champions with Kuminga as the best player. And Steph as like a, you know, a Jason Kidd type point guard.
Oh, no, I'm thinking Kyle Korver type.
Yeah. Maybe that happens, but I think what's obvious now is that the team is suffering presently for this ideal of trying to thread the needle. You know, it's not quite so much of a win now as maybe they thought it was, because if you do want to win now, you really just need people who can come in and don't have a learning curve.
But so our playoff rotation right now is the 5 starters: Gary Payton, Otto Porter Jr., and Jordan Poole. How many other teams have gone deeper than 8 in the conference finals? Right, not many at all.
Yeah.
That when healthy, and if they play as well as they did at the start of the season, I think those 8 players win you a title. And you don't need anything from Kuminga.
You've got to get past the Phoenix Suns, though.
But that's what I'm saying. I think if Draymond's back and Draymond's fully healthy, those 8 players are better than the Phoenix Suns' 8 or 9 players, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it is. If we can win a title this year or next year, which is looking less likely than this year, you've got those guys who aren't even in your playoff rotation, and they're going to grow into the role.
Yeah.
If we don't win this year, the fucking pressure is on.
Yeah.
So it's either light years or something less than light. God, I just shuddered. It's like they're the 29 other teams in the league.
Now you can see how the other half lives.
Hey, at 12 Danyang. Do you like hearing the down low on all your NBA and basketball content?
Hey, at Will Conkin on Instagram and Twitter. Don't you mean the lowdown on NBA and basketball content?
No, I mean the down low, because that's our show, The Down Low,
where we give you the lowdown on everything NBA.
Check out the Down Low NBA on all your podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple, or even Google Podcasts.
Google has podcasts?
Yeah, I didn't even know that either. But now you know, so go and get it in your ears.
All right, well, let's round out this Warriors seg with two pieces of Warriors news. The first is that the aforementioned Big Jim, James Wiseman, has been assigned to the actual Santa Cruz Warriors, not the Santa Cruz Warriors, but the Santa Cruz Warriors.
Huh?
You know, not like the Warriors G League team, but in the NBA, but the actual Warriors G League team. So he's finally ready to play. Which is good. You mentioned that he was supposed to be back before Christmas. It's now, checking my watch, roughly 3 months after Christmas, 2.5 months after Christmas. So, what's going on there? Meniscus injuries, luckily, are notoriously easy to come back from at full strength. So, we'll be keeping an eye on how Jimmy goes in the G League.
Big Jim also, should I mention, I heard him on SoundCloud this past week, and he's surely his rap name, which at the moment is James Wiseman, surely his rap name is Lil Jim. Like Big Jim on the court, Lil Jim in the studio.
It'd be nice, huh?
I actually don't. Did you listen to it?
No.
It's all right. No, you know how this is super fucking cringe. You know how it's like I like Damian Lillard as a rapper, right?
Yeah.
But I can't get over how incredibly cringe it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm looking at every NBA rapper like, I really don't want to listen to this, but Big Jim was alright.
Do you listen to Aaron Gordon's Dwayne Wade diss track?
Yeah.
It was called like 49.
Oh, fuck. That.
Who are the other NBA rappers? Is Miles Bridges a rapper?
Yeah, probably. I think Cat's got some.
Alright, Cat's rap would be the worst thing I can ever think of. Yeah, Miles Bridges is a rapper.
Fucking Mason Plumlee.
He's what? He's a rapper?
Yeah.
No, you're taking the piss. Mason, if not when not if Plumlee.
Just play it and we'll get the mic to pick it up. That's the one.
Will Roosh featuring Mason Plumlee. 4,500.
We'll give credit to Lucas because he told us to. He sent this in the group chat.
Okay, well, as soon as the ad passes, we're gonna get a live rendition.
You might have to maybe skip forwards a bit.
Right, this isn't Mason Plumlee.
Who's that?
Wow, that's Mason Plumlee.
He raps.
Does he say anything, or he's just standing there looking like a fucking wacko?
He does rap.
It's your boy Plums, that's my name.
Get your boy Roush a 10-day.
I don't know if you heard, but Benjamin Franklin is killing the game.
Yeah.
Well, that was terrible. And obviously this is an audio medium, but I was watching the music video, which was also terrible. Wow. Okay. Okay. Wow. We need to get like an NBA rap starting five going. He'd definitely be my starting center. Okay. Last piece of Warriors news. Fucking whack. This comes from Shams Charania and Anthony Slater of The Athletic. The Warriors are working out Tyreke Evans. Yes, that Tyreke Evans.
the one from your dream blunt rotation.
Dream blunt rotation. The one who got banned from the NBA for 2 years in 2018-19 for violating the NBA's very liberal drug policy. One can only imagine what kind of violations have led to a 2-year suspension. And then when it broke, it was like, it
Are you going to get the photo with you?
Yeah, it was like,
cooked?
oh yeah, like maybe looking back at his photo, his team photo, it makes sense because he's just fucking blazed in his 2018 team photo. Literally like.
Have you seen the photo of...
Oh my god, look at that. He's got fucking red eyes. His eyes are like fucking red.
Have you seen the photo of Bryn Forbes when he was cooked?
No. Bryn Forbes. Let's have a look and see what that...
It's him as a...
Anyway, maybe we'll put it on the Instagram.
Yeah, maybe.
Tyreke Evans back from the dead, from wherever he was. No doubt keeping himself in amazing shape over those 2 years.
So, yeah, amazing shape. I hated this at the very start, but then I was like, oh, hang on a minute, what are we missing in Draymond playmaking? Why don't we cut someone from a team that was clearly really good friends and clicking and all on the same vibe at the start of the year and bring him in? It seems like a short-term fix for something that's going to be fixed just by injuries stopping from happening. What do you reckon?
Guess what Tyreke Evans' career points per game average is?
15?
Yeah, 15.7.
Did I get something similar like that last week?
Yeah, you did.
I love trivia.
You got it. I think you got it exactly. I think it's 14.1 and you said 14. Yeah, well, this is a bit of a blast from the past, but seriously, who could forget his full court buzzer beater against the Memphis Grizzlies in like 2011 when like Rudy Gay hit an almost buzzer beating three and there was like 0.5 seconds left and Tyreke Evans scored like an 85-foot three to win the game. And in that moment, he was in his first or second year. He was the rookie of the year. He was the only, Michael Jordan and LeBron James were the only other players to have averaged 25 and 5 as rookies. In that moment,
Thagic level of stats.
The sky, the roof is the ceiling, to paraphrase Michael Jordan, in that moment. And look where we are. 12 years later, he's back from violating the NBA's drug policy and he's about to join the Warriors and win that ring that he's been chasing.
Yeah, full circle. What do you reckon? Or just want to move on?
I reckon that's enough Warriors conversation.
What do we like here?
I like Malik Monk.
You like Malik Monk. Well, the coming from Adrian Wojnarowski and Dave McMenamin of ESPN, the Lakers will, quote, struggle to re-sign Malik Monk in free agency, unquote. They're talking about how, from their learnings from speaking to people in front offices, they believe that he won't be able to re-sign with the Lakers, who can either offer him their own mid-level, which they'll get access to, which will likely be the taxpayer MLE, unless they can swindle any team, or they can offer him 120% of what his previous salary was, which was the veteran minimum. We said this off air before, but Malik Monk was offered something like in the range of $7 million a year with the Charlotte Hornets, and he turned it down so he could make more money, proving that he can win on a 1 year make good deal with the Lakers. I think we can comfortably say he's the Lakers' third best player, and while the Lakers aren't a good team, I think he's played well and he deserves more money than that. So, yeah, it's like one good thing happens for the Lakers in free agency, because they do great things in the draft, but one good thing happens for him in free agency, and holy guacamole, he's out of there.
Yeah, I think the thing that gives me confidence that someone will give Malik Monk a bigger offer than what the Lakers can is the fact that last year, whilst he could have got more than what he ended up signing for, there was a bit of... You had to kind of extrapolate a little bit from his role in Charlotte. You were kind of like, oh, this guy's still a bit inconsistent. Like, yeah, he just did the best season of his career, but like he's had 3 really bad years.
Yeah.
What's his role going to be? How are we going to use this guy? And now this year you're seeing him in exactly the role that he'll play on contending teams for the rest of his career. Just that, like, ability to work really well with the ball dominant wing, shooting really well, like kind of, honing his shot selection a little bit more, and the fact that it's working, that's a valuable player for any team to have. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got offered something in the range of the full mid-level, which would be about $9 million a year. And the Lakers, I think, not sure if I'm imagining, but that you already mentioned it, but they can only offer him 120% of his current salary, or their taxpayer mid-level. And if they offer the taxpayer mid-level, obviously that means that they don't then have the tax payment level to bring in any other players, which we do know that they need players not named Russell Westbrook. Remember when Kent Bazemore was going to be like an amazing addition and Kendrick Nunn was going to play, and there was actually, you could make a credible argument, maybe not persuasive, but credible. Like, you wouldn't get laughed out of the room for saying, like, I reckon some of their depth acquisitions are going to be good, and this is where we are.
I knew Kent Bazemore was going to be bad because he was bad the year before.
Yeah.
He was just affordable. Did you see, because obviously the Houston Rockets beat them today, the NBA's worst team, beat the Lakers in overtime. They went on a 10-0 run as soon as overtime opened. Jalen Green did some amazing stuff. And after the game, reporters said, what was the game plan today? How'd you beat LeBron? And they're like, we just decided to go at Melo every single time down the court.
Yeah.
Whoa. Someone said it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was kind of watching that. I was at the library studying today, and I was just, every half hour just like looking at the scores, just Google NBA scores, see what's going on. And I was kind of watching that throughout, and I was like, they're tied now in the second quarter, but obviously the Lakers aren't going to lose at home to the Rockets. And lo and behold, here we are, the 28-37 Lakers, 28-37. That might be like a worse record than LeBron's first year with the Lakers when he sat out the last 30 games.
Yeah.
Let's do a bit of... I reckon that team won like high 30s.
The Luke Walton...
2018-19? Or, yeah, 2018-19...
Oh, I wish they kept Brook
Lakers.
Lopez. I wish they kept Brook Lopez for LeBron.
37 and 45 that year. So do we think that with like... What's the math on the Lakers? 28 plus 37. I'm just going to tie that into my browser.
Please don't voice that. People will hear.
So that's 65. So there's 17 games left. So the Lakers need to win 9 games, which means going above 500. And I'd say over their last 2 months, they're probably substantially below 500 because for most of the season, they were just like straddling 500, like thereabouts. I think they were like 25 and 25 at one point, and now they're 28 and 37. So the odds on them going above 500 the rest of the season is probably less likely, than not, which means that this team with a full season of LeBron and Russell Westbrook and a half season from Anthony Davis is a worse team than the Lakers kids who they farmed out and half a season of LeBron.
But they won a title, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. They did win a title, but it is...
It's so shit. Yeah.
It is just like...
It's a waste of LeBron.
Yeah, kind of, in many ways, this season for LeBron is kind of very similar to Tyreke Evans' career, where you just look back and you just think, how did we get here?
Yeah. Well,
how did we get here?
It'd be nice if the Warriors could just have LeBron while Draymond's out.
Or just loan him.
Yeah. That was a useless comment. Let's go to the final point of news coming from David Aldridge of The Athletic, that John Wall's open to a return to the Washington Wizards. Now, this report will get clicks and will be talked about on podcasts like the Deep 2 NBA podcast, but in reality, how the fuck does this happen? And how bored are John Wall's PR dudes? Like, they're sitting around like, fuck, he's not even playing.
They probably are pretty bored. Like, he's got...
Like, what does this mean that the Wizards are going to trade Porzingis and fill the salary for John Wall, or is John Wall going to leave about 40
The craziest thing about this is that you could literally put in a max contract salary and you'd still need another 13 million to get there. That is so fucking insane to think about. Yeah, we need to be like Porzingis and Kuzma on his new extension.
And you don't want to do that.
No.
So if he does get bought out, I'm sure there's some contenders out there that would sign him before the Wiz. But yeah, just a nice little bit of PR work by the John Wall camp. What do you reckon?
I just think that this... You could cut out the name Washington Wizards and just say that John Wall is open to a return. And then just put any team's name in there, because if he gets bought out, then okay, great, he gets bought out, and then he can go and play basketball somewhere.
Yeah.
And if he gets bought out and the Orlando Magic offered him a contract and no one else did, he'd probably go and play for the Orlando Magic. So him being open to a return for the Wizards as you've mentioned, having no ability to maneuver his way there is essentially a useless piece of information because he'd be open for a return to literally wherever he could actually get on the court. It's kind of sad that he's essentially being held hostage by a team that won't play him. Yes, he gets $47 million.
He doesn't want to play. I think it was him. I think he was the impetus for not playing.
I thought it was them.
I think it was him.
Ooh. It's a bit of he said, they said.
That's funny. I believe it was him because he said that because he wanted a trade.
Yeah, but obviously, John Wall does not plan to play for the Rockets until he's guaranteed a spot in the starting rotation.
That's just a way to say.
So it's kind of like
how about this? The Rockets ended up with Dennis Schroeder at the end of the trade deadline, and everyone's like, "You're going to buy him out?" And they're like, "No, we have been starving for point guard play to get our guys the ball. We're playing him, and we're keeping him." And then Schroeder's had some good quotes, being like, "Yeah, I really want to be here and help the young guys get better and stuff." And the young guys have been getting better shots now. They have a real point guard.
I also kind of think of a better mentor and playing table setup for my young players than Dennis Schroeder.
Well, I was Kelly Iko of The Athletic had this article looking at just everything he is doing for the team, and it's like you and I will ridicule Dennis Schroeder till the patch comes home, but he's actually just a grown man just doing basketball things for a team that needs people to do basketball things. He's just organised, and it's wow, that fuck you, DJ Augustine.
Yeah,
but stuff like that. Last piece of news, which isn't a piece of news, it's more of a comment. 2 weeks ago, you and I said after Brooklyn were going to New York was going to ease their vaccine mandates, we said, who do you think is going to play more home games this year, Kyrie Irving or Ben Simmons? I think we both said Ben Simmons. Was that right? Neither of them have played a home game yet.
Yeah. This could be a stalemate. Could be a stalemate.
For the league's hope, I hope not. Ben Simmons, by the way, is going to go to Philly for their March 17th or 14th matchup against the Brooklyn Nets.
It's exceedingly close.
He's going to be in Philly, but he's still recovering his back and getting into game shape.
He's back.
Which one is it?
Which one is it? First, I've heard about it. It's actually tomorrow.
Ooh,
no,
is that at Brooklyn?
No, that's at Brooklyn.
So there is a game in Philly, and he's going to go to it, I believe. But not if you also want to do another, what are the odds? Is he going to sit courtside or is he going to sit at the gym or something? If he shows his face in Philly,
I just think there's no way he showed his face.
Yeah.
There's no way. Also,
I sort of being on Denver Twitter and stuff, I get all updates for Broncos, because every dude I see.
Big day for the Broncos.
Yeah, even I know that. Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell me the NBA comp for what the Broncos just did?
Russell Wilson is Dame.
Oh, okay.
Russell Wilson is if the Dame trade had happened. Okay, and the Broncos have had a really strong roster.
But got traded
for the past 2 years. They just had no quarterback. But all of their offensive skill players, they've got amazing receivers, they've got a great defense. They just need a quarterback to put it all into place.
What's the NBA comp before Russell Wilson?
The NBA comp before Russell Wilson was probably...
Is it the Brooklyn Nets before KD came?
Yeah, that's probably a good one. I was going to say Indiana, but Brooklyn's probably better. Brooklyn is probably a better comp. Just kind of lots of good things there, but without that top tier talent, it's essentially meaningless. You could go 500, but you couldn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And especially with the Rams last offseason, traded their average quarterback for a very good quarterback and won the Super Bowl with that very good quarterback. So that kind of approach, the Rams also had amazing skill players, amazing defense. So that kind of thinking has been justified in doing this. But the interesting thing is that the only reason why they traded for Wilson, they've been rumoured to get Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers has been a malcontent for 2 years and has been signalling that he wants out.
I'm sick of seeing that on
Twitter. The new head coach for the Broncos was the offensive coordinator for the Packers, where Aaron Rodgers played. So everyone was like, well, the Broncos just hired Aaron Rodgers as guy.
Yeah.
Now they're going to go and get Aaron Rodgers. And then Aaron Rodgers signed an extension this morning or yesterday morning. And then less than 2 hours later, the Wilson trade happened. So he's pivoted.
Yeah. It's like signing Luka Doncic's coach to your fucking basketball
literally.
team and then not drafting him.
Oh my god, I can't even remember that guy's name.
Oh,
I've blocked that
Igor
out.
Kokoshkov.
Igor Kokoshkov.
But yeah, just to wrap it up, it was great to see Von Miller finally get a superb hour. Like, long time coming, man.
Yeah. He already had one, but
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, well, NFL podcast. All I know is Twitter news. So yeah, I've seen Aaron Rodgers' head about once a day for the past fucking month.
Yeah, he's a Gronk.
He's a fucking
he's a big
anti-vaxxer
Gronk.
as well, isn't he?
Yeah, and he was doing this like diet, this like physical and spiritual cleanse where you basically make yourself shit and vomit for like 2 weeks straight, and you just fucking you get it all out, and you're like meditating and reflecting, and you're just fucking cleansing yourself from both ends and in the brain.
Dude, it seems like I do a fucking spiritual cleanse
That's-
every Sunday morning.
That sort of thing is like, from a regular person, pretty strange, and you'd be a bit like, what's going on here? But then he's also like an anti-vaxxer, and he like went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and you know, then it all kind of clicks into place that this guy is completely unhinged. But he's engaged to Shailene Woodley, the actress.
Who's that?
She's just an actress.
Yeah.
She's like, I think she's reasonably well known.
Well, obviously not reasonably well known.
She
enough.
played. her breakout was on
What was her
Secret
name?
Lives of American Teenagers in like 2008, which I used to like watch with my brother. She played a pregnant chick,
What was her name?
Shailene Woodley.
Leno and Woodley.
Yeah, that's the one. That you're an old person. That's an old person's reference.
Leno and Woodley.
Yeah.
I went to him live.
Yeah,
years
and
ago.
who'd you go? Did you go with Finbar?
No, I went with a love interest at the time.
Oh, interesting.
I've never seen this person in my life.
Yeah.
So what was the TV show you said?
Secret Lives of American Teenagers. It was like a teenage drama soap that was on Fox 8 when I
Why
was
don't you
like
just watch
in grade
Skins?
5.
Why don't you watch Skins with the rest of us?
Well, I was just watching what was available to me. Just watching what was available. She plays like a teenage mum. She's like pregnant. You know.
Well, I will probably never see her again. Actually, on that note, what's her name? Edgar Jones.
Daisy Edgar Jones.
Yeah, her new show.
What's her new show?
Fresh. It's like a horror thriller rom-com.
Yeah.
Too many fucking genres in one.
Yeah.
She is dog shit.
Really?
You and I loved her in Normal People because she was a very good actress.
Yeah.
And now she's fucking shit.
She's fallen
Yeah,
apart.
she fell off. She was
Without
it was cringe, man.
without Paul Mescal, she's doing
She
nothing.
completes him. Mate,
He's in Melbourne. Paul Mescal.
yeah, I saw that. That was pretty cool. Wait, Mate, we're about to wrap up. Did you want to say anything on the pod?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
My favourite player from Phoenix Suns is Markieff Morris. Number 11, baby.
How's that?
Mook. Love it, man.
All right, Dante, I'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, Sean.
If you look for PointsBet's stock exchange listing, you'll find a bucket of jargon and doublespeak as they're considered a, quote, wagering services operator, unquote. That's a corporate stretch for the colloquial friendly brogan or, hey, look, it's Chris Bosh kind of image they're sending off with their targeted advertising. I don't know about you, but take me back to the days when former pro sports players signed brand deals with hair loss clinics or Fujitsu aircons, not, quote, wagering service providers.
If you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and you come across the two of our faces morphed into one, would that make you listen to our podcast more? I mean, if it does, let us know and we'll start doing it. But when I see a few NBA players' faces morphed into one, it doesn't make me want to pull out my wallet and donate some money to my local wagering services provider.
The worst part is we're coming to accept it. Wagering service provider ads are so ingrained in our sports and the way sports is delivered to us, it's almost impossible to avoid. 3/4 of Australian children aged between 8 and 16 years who watch sport think that betting on sport is normal and can name one or more sport betting companies. When I was in school, I was struggling to remember Pokemon names, and I'd be furious if I knew that brain power was being used to put towards wagering service providers and not them.
The wagering service providers know exactly who to target. It's not okay to let them ingrain themselves in young Australians' minds. It's not okay to target people in the middle of a pandemic, and it's not okay for gambling companies to wield so much influence in the world of sports. To help kick gambling out of sport, use your voice and sign the petition at www.endgamblingads.org.au/petition.